Hey team, welcome to episode 147 of Transition Talk, where we talk about dental transitions and how to navigate the sometimes messy path to practice ownership. If you know anything about us, you know that we're clearly advocates of practice ownership. We truly think ownership offers a path for you to build equity, to make more money, to feel prepared for retirement, great tax planning, and especially being able to control your own destiny. Those are the 5 reasons why, if you aren't sure. However, the journey to ownership is not all rainbows and butterflies. There are certainly challenges, certainly hurdles you have to face every day. And it's really an individual decision whether or not ownership is right for you and when it's right for you. In this episode, we're going to dive into the realities of ownership and discuss both the good and the bad and the highs and the lows. And while you may face challenges, know that ownership can simultaneously provide just as many rewards. And before we have our normal Mr. Loretto, Mrs. Ratcliffe chat, I want to kind of make a note here. We always talk about the why and the how on this podcast, but we don't really talk about the timing. And so before we get into the highs and lows and goods and bads, we're going to talk a little bit about the timing of ownership and what Mr. Loretto and I are seeing. So with that, hello.
Man, you always crush it on this freaking intro. It's just soothing. Your voice is so soothing. You crush it.
I take this podcast mic home, and this is how I read Bren
Yes.
nighttime stories.
This is how you and Chris talk every night.
Every
Me the mashed
night.
potatoes.
What's going on in your world?
Oh, man. This is the busy season. This is we just came back from Hinman, came back from Spear. We're doing so many lectures down at A&M. I just came back from El Paso. So the grind is almost over.
It really is.
This time around this April, May is where we can look forward to that little bit of a break in going into the summer. But it's just still in busy mode, Christy.
It really is. I was talking to someone on my team who has a young child, and I had read somewhere, if you look at each decade, most people are the busiest in their 40s, I think because of child age typically, and she just entered her 30s. And she has a young kid, and she's like, I feel like it's just so crazy. And you said that the other day, and that just stresses me out. And I'm like, yeah, but like you just kind of figure it out, and like everything kind of clicks and everything's moving at the pace and, career growing and family growing and life growing and, all those things. So it's just kind of the timing of that and kind of the different phases of life and kind of where you are is so cool too. Cause like you've been through it all and can look back at me and look back at her and like give it a little chuckle, I'm sure.
I think it's if you have time to go on walks, you know that you have time on your side.
Oh my gosh, it is such a luxury.
I'm in walk mode right now. I'm like crushing it right now. This is 10,000, 11,000 steps. I'm in walk mode. But this is where I think and decompress.
Jealous.
And I talk to friends and family. And
yesterday, I made myself go on a walk because I missed it so much. And I'm telling you, mentally, it's the best thing ever.
It's great clarity.
Okay, well.
Your time is coming.
My time is coming. So talking about segue and talking about timing, I mentioned in the intro there, but like we always talk about ownership, but we never really talk about like when is the right time. And I think if you're an avid listener of the podcast, you might feel like you have to do it as soon as possible. I know we've talked to several that feel that way. What's your thoughts on timing?
Yeah, I get this question a bunch. And, it's like, well, do I buy now? Do I buy later? And take a look at this opportunity. And what I really enjoy most is asking the right questions because many times the timing is not right. It doesn't make sense. And examples where it doesn't make sense is perhaps maybe their clinical skills aren't there yet. Maybe they need more confidence. So they may need 2 to 3 years perhaps in this confidence clinical side. Perhaps we're waiting on a significant other. That significant other could be in the military, and we're waiting to see if they're going to re-up for another 4 years and get out in 10. It could be maybe we have a significant other that is a residency program, and then they go on to do a fellowship, and we don't know where they're going to go. So this whole back and forth of kind of where and what we're waiting for. I've seen it where the oral surgeon spouse was the associate, now they're the owner. And now they're discussing things like, do we still push forward with the stress of being 2 business owners with the intent we're going to have 3 or 4 children? These are all individual decisions. And it's not always about just how much money that I can make and the equity and all of our 5 reasons why. I do think there needs to be a lot of personal thought that goes into the timing of it. And I think for this podcast, which I think is such a unique kind of twist for us, because we're always go, go, go and be the owner, is to have those discussions of perhaps not being an owner. And certainly there are some of those downsides to being an owner. And I always say that there's risk and stress with being the owner, and there's risk and stress with being the associate.
Yeah. And you just got to pick which one you want.
You just need to know what you're getting yourself into. And let's say it differently. I think that if we can truly understand our why, and we know that income and equity and tax, and we actually understand what we're giving up, and we still make the decision not to own, I think we're in a great space. I think that we have clear understanding of the path and opportunity, but we have made an election personally or the family that this is best suited for us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I say this, and I'm sure you do too, right? Like, I don't want anyone ever to say no to ownership because they haven't done the work to understand what it would be. But if you do the work to understand what it would be and your answer is no, that is okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's personal, I mean, you said this, but like personally, if I was 6 months pregnant and I had an opportunity to buy this practice, I might personally be like, now is not the time right now for me. I've worked with plenty of women who did that, right? And they bought at 6 months pregnant. They had to sell their work back. And it was amazing. It was incredible. And they loved it, right? For me personally, that may have not been my choice, right? So like, I think everyone has to look at their world and look at time and look at the opportunity and kind of make that judgment. So this kind of episode was spawned in our practice ownership program at Hinman. And someone said, you guys talk about all the positives of ownership, but like, what are the negatives? And I think that's a very valid question. Now, you know me, I can't really like talk all negative. So like everything we have here, I feel like to me is the double-edged sword of ownership, which is you can look at it positively, but you can also look at it from a negative viewpoint. We're going to talk about both. And so we'll just kind of jump in if you don't mind. What about wearing all the hats? Like, I feel like this is the huge one. As an owner, you are everything to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exhausting.
I think you have to be that leader. I think as the associate, you're the clinician, but you still feel like this safety net that somebody else is the higher level clinician that basically, you know, maybe is more responsible. You've got to be the entrepreneur. You got to be this risk taker. There's this level of management. There's this level of I have to train and motivate people. I don't have any business training. I mean, nothing was taught at my school. And so there's all of these just simple stresses that we're just building and building and building and kind of putting all of this in our head, and to where it's built up essentially to where I just can't get past it. And this is just, it's not the path that's for me. So it's for this young person, and not always young, but for the most part young, they can't get past that this is even possible or even feasible for them.
Yeah. You know, if I think about myself, right, because I think this is true regardless of what your profession is, I love, while it can be exhausting, I love that every day has a little bit of a different spin. There's always my core work. So like for you guys, it's your clinical work and that's the core. But then there's the additional like figuring out payroll and the staff issue and the kind of marketing. And there's all those components that while I'm not an expert in those, I think it's kind of fun to dabble in them and then like work with the people who are experts in them. And that's kind of a cool thing. But like, if that's not what you like and like you want nothing to do with any of those things, ownership's going to be challenging, right? Because you are the lead decision on how you market your practice and how you manage your team and what kind of payroll system you use and who your accountant is. Like all of those things are going to be your decision, where if you're just the associate, you come in, you do your work, and yeah, you may help manage staff a little bit, but like you said, the buck doesn't stop with you. It keeps going up, and then you can kind of like pass on that opportunity. So I think for me, I love it. I think it's cool that every day I get to do something different. It adds variety. I've learned so much in this role as we've grown, but it also work-life balance is hard.
I think there's also, you have to remember that when you're looking at social media, this is all going to be about the negative side of ownership. And so a lot of this is just built up that this is going to be a very difficult path for you. Like you said, just things that are mentioned like HR and people. I mean, it's just like, oh, I don't know anything about that. That is just, you know.
Oh, you're talking about like on Facebook groups, like who comments and stuff. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah.
It's sad.
It's just like rarely do people rave about a restaurant online.
Yeah.
It's oftentimes that they're just complaining if they get bad service or something happens. So I think the same thing, right? Like as humans, we are naturally more inclined to gripe about things than to rave about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taking all of that when they're $400,000 to $500,000 of debt and disinterest, and it's just not for me. I already have too much stress on my plate right now, and to see all that and to read all these negative comments. Again, before we make this decision that it's not for me, you really have to expose yourself to a very successful dentist, somebody that does have that work-life balance that maybe is, if 50% of our audience is obviously female, maybe 60% because women are smarter than men, and that's probably makes more sense. We'd have more women listeners. But if we're going to go down those family roads, I want to find another female dentist that has had a successful work-life balance with family. That's who I'm being mentored with. That's who I'm listening to. And how difficult are these HR things that I keep reading about, or people and clinical and the payroll? I'm interviewing others before I make my final decision.
Well, and I think you have to have expectations. Like my expectation going in is that I'm going to work all the time.
Yeah.
If your expectation is going to be the same as when you're an associate, you are going to be disappointed. Like your expectation is, I'm going to think about this on the weekends. I'm going to think about this in the evening. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night remembering I forgot to do something that I should have done. Like that's just the expectation. And if that is what you know going in, then that can be different. One of the things we talked about as far as wearing the hats was staff. So clearly, like one of the main gripes and negatives of ownership, in my opinion, is you are managing a team and you have not been equipped nor trained on how to manage people. And like every person, every human has a whole different set of background and traits and how you communicate with them. And so that kind of is oftentimes a big surprise for our clients when they become owners.
I don't have it in front of me, but number one or number two gripe you're going to have about any business owner is going to be about the people.
Yeah.
Certainly we can take this further into the dental side. I mean, we're dealing with dentists without perhaps that business leadership and managing people skill set. It's something that we all kind of learn over time, and we become more effective over time if we get a good business coaching to help us. But in the end, we got to create a culture to keep people and keep people happy. And if we haven't been able to do that, we're just simply wrestling with our upset people, and we're wrestling with people that are leaving. And now we're wrestling with how do I replace those people? And now the people that are there are upset that these people left, and now they're asking for maybe more money, and maybe the KPI at our practices that our people cost are too high. And it just creates this whole level of additional stress of just managing people. And people are humans. Humans have problems. People don't show up because they have kid problems, and there's snow, and there's kid is sick, and this kid's sick, she's sick. It's just running that office is such a big thing. I think if you ask a bunch of 60-year-olds and say, is there anything that you don't miss? It's going to be managing the people. I think if you say it this way, when people retire in their, call it 50s, 60s, that's one of the main reasons they're retiring is financially they're set, but they just don't want to have to manage the people. So it is a real stress. And I don't want to make this everything's perfect when you're an owner. This is a real thing as far as managing people.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take the flip side too, right? Like when the person retires, the first thing they say is, I'm so happy I don't have to manage the people. But the second thing they say is, I'll miss my patients and staff, So like, I do think that if you do it correctly and you do it long enough, because I think amount of it is just time, right? Like you just have to kind of learn and self-educate yourself. There's a ton of good books out there about dealing with different personality types and how to communicate with a person that's like this versus this. So again, educate and figure out what you're not good at and try to get better at it. But I also think that is a positive. Like if you can get a good team, or not just a full team, I mean, that might be hard, but like you have good people that work for you, that respect you, that help you do what you do. Those people are worth their weight in gold. And so I think like that is the other side of the coin of like, people are hard, but a good relationship is very valuable too.
I spoke to a guy yesterday, I can't make this up, 61 years old, has a team of 30, and he's just a driver. The numbers he was hitting was incredible, 4 million by himself. And his goal is that he was going to go from 4 to 5, and then he was going to take all of his team members to Hawaii.
Oh my gosh.
And pay for all of them.
So cool.
They're all excited. They're all pumped up to hit these
Big numbers.
Yeah, to hit the numbers. This guy's been doing it for over 30 years. And so there's an example of somebody that was able to overcome and create a team and a culture where everybody does want to be there. But again, it's just a phone call, it's a few minutes of him saying that. I'm sure that you don't get to that level without a lot of pains to the process, and you got to figure out who to keep and who to grow with.
And I mean, if you're listening and you're not good with confrontation, right? Like you got to work on that, because you're going to have to like give stern feedback and you're going to have those conversations. So like, again, part of this episode is like understanding who you are and what are your strengths and weaknesses. And if you're going to own, how am I going to either mitigate that weakness that you might have, do the education, take the training, do whatever to get better in that weakness, hire someone to help you with that. Those are the things that we're talking about because it could be a real fault in your practice if you buy when you're not ready.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. You got to look at yourself in the mirror, and every part of that weakness, you've got to repair that weakness with somebody else that can crush it. So if you don't think you have the marketing capabilities, you're hiring marketing specialists. If you have the best communication skills, then you can be the diagnose, you can be the doctor, and have someone else present that treatment plan. If you're not the best with business and accounting, then let's bring in the experts in accounting or finance or investments or whatever it may be. You have to recognize your own weakness. So even if we recognize lots of weaknesses, it doesn't mean, hey, you can't be an owner.
No.
It just means that you acknowledge what that weakness is. You can focus on some of the things to improve upon yourself. But the best thing I can tell you is you hire the people around you so that it kind of hides your weaknesses.
Hides it. And that goes right along with our next one, which is like the benefit of ownership is like the financial incentives. There's also like the business side, which we have already highlighted that like most dentists don't have a lot of business training when they come out and they're supposed to own. But clearly those two things are hard, right? Like the financial aspect of a practice, if it's good is good and if it's bad is bad. And the financial stress of ownership is a real stress because it's all on you again, right? And so those two kind of components of just like the financial aspect, the administrative burden, the business side of running a practice can be very, very burdensome. But like you said, hire the right people, industry specific, understand what you've purchased or created and keep tabs on it, right? Like you can't just do it once and like let it go. You've got to kind of stay on top of it and stay educated about what you've created and how it's doing so you're not caught in a position where you're financially unable to manage your life.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, as far as the stress of those people that with regard to business, there's really one stress that is going to resonate. You don't make any money.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to work, you're doing dentistry, and this thing is just not profitable. It's either A, literally losing money, or B, you're there, call it 4 days a week, and you're making $100,000 where you could have been making several $100,000 at least as the associate. And so that's where this uneasiness is there. If you have a stress and it's about running a business and it's a $1.5 million practice that has a 50% overhead and you make $750,000, I have yet to meet that individual that says, running a business is very stressful. You make $750,000. Okay,
unless you're making really bad personal decisions and they're using all that
those
$750,000.
We have not gotten to personal yet, Christy. But the business side of this is there's usually stress because they don't understand their numbers, and it's kind of leading into a list and a run of other bad financial decisions, right? If you don't have good, clean financial data and understand it, you're typically making other decisions that are making that process even worse for you.
Yeah, or you're relying on people who don't understand dentistry, and it's like the blind leading the blind.
Yes, I just wish that we had a solution for really good accounting.
That'd be weird.
Yeah.
That'd be great. You should create that.
Yeah, we should work on that. What could we call it?
We could call it CWA.
CWA.
Let's do it.
Let's
Okay. The last one, when we lecture, this is like the fifth reason for ownership. I always say it's like the touchy-feely one. It's like the controlling your destiny, or like the kind of building what you want, that true like entrepreneurial spirit of why people create and own their own business, which is great. It can also be kind of a burden, in my opinion. Like you make a lot of decisions as an owner. So if you can't make decisions, or you have a hard time being definitive and like having your own opinion or understanding what you want, that can definitely be bad news bears.
It's a real struggle for people, and you can present 3 options. They just can't figure it out. Even if it's a winner deal, they just still can't make up their mind. And we've obviously dealt with thousands of clients at this point between us, and we know the ones that no matter what, they're going to find something wrong with any deal, or they can't figure it out. No matter what you present, what the argument, they're like, just still, I'll need to think about it. So this is a weakness for people, and you need to be in that space and feel comfortable that I'm willing to make decisions, and I need to make them quick when they're right and they're effective with the right team around me. I can do it. But if it's a situation where you just see yourself that you just can't, then this is going to be a big barrier and a big challenge for you as an owner.
Yeah. Over the years, I've had a couple people be like, I just feel like you know, and I just don't understand. And I'm like, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, that sounds like the best option in my head and I'm confident about it. And you guys think I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I don't.
Are we talking parenting right now?
I mean,
what
both.
are we talking about?
Both.
Life?
I'm just like, I'm just going to make a decision here and we're going to go with it and it's going to be fine. And so I think that ability to decision fatigue is a huge thing. You're going to make 100 decisions a day. Like, when I go home, Chris is like, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, I just don't want to make a decision. Like, you just tell me what I'm eating and I'll tell you if I don't like it. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that's part of ownership. And so if you are a person who that's just not your cup of tea, you have to be aware that that's going to be part, and you got to figure out how to become more confident in that and understand that's going to be a component of it. This kind of circles us back to what we've said time and time again, which is all of these things are figuring out your why, right? And figuring out your how and educating yourself on these various components, right? You can listen to this podcast, which I highly recommend you do, and understand what practice ownership looks like and kind of these various components. But there's also great podcasts out there that are purely about HR. And you can listen to the Accumulating Wealth podcast that Kane Waters does about the more financial aspects and tax planning. There's so many resources out there about the various parts of running a business. And I think if you are thinking about ownership, you don't have to do it all at one time, right? I mean, timing is something, right? Like if you're not going to own for 5 more years, that's 5 more years of you being able to just slowly like soak up knowledge and kind of figure out what do I like, what do I not like, so that you can figure out when is the right time, right? Because today you may feel super shaky about half the things we talked about. But next year at this time, you might feel better and be more prepared to do that. And so I think just really continuing to educate yourself is so key here.
Yeah. I think another here is your ability to make your own practice and be able to make your own brand. I think that's an important thing for anybody in business is you have to be able to be that person. Think of yourself as an associate, is the person that walks into the room and sees things that are out of place and is constantly fixing. The person that, the ability to walk a patient out, to greet them differently. Just the genuine care of people, genuine care of not just a patient, but the individual team member. That
treats it like their own.
You got to always be thinking like, and the best way that you're preparing yourself ever for ownership, if you're ever in doubt, is just to start being the associate that way.
Yeah.
And you're constantly just a learning nonstop. We talked about of as the associate, you're just looking at every part. Do I like this handpiece? Do I like this chair? Do I like this delivery unit? Do I like the way that the phones are answered? Do I like the software they're using? Do I like everything? And ultimately in your mind, you're just creating your brand.
Yeah.
What is my brand? What will it be? And that takes some work, and that takes a unique individual. And again, if that's just not you, I just don't think that way. I never will. And I just want to go in and get out. I'm okay with that. And that's okay that you can look at yourself and say, I know what I'm giving up and I hear you, but I'm just not there. And maybe it's not there yet.
Yeah. I think there's a ton of those people that are not there yet. And then one day they're like, oh, I can do this.
That's right.
Right. And so it's just that timing. So
Can I close on one more thing?
Yeah, do it.
Just in closing, I will say that the most rewarding thing I think that we do, and the most rewarding thing that I receive from immediate feedback, is going to a lecture and talking about this why, and having someone or someone's come up and to say, that was life-changing. It gave me a different perspective, and it really impacted me, and it's really made me think differently about how I approach dentistry as a whole, and to give them that hope. And so what's the fun part is perhaps there are half of maybe the audience that is driven, half that maybe is undecided, and maybe 25% or maybe could be converted, and 25% maybe are still wrestling. And so for that 25% that's still wrestling, I think it's just important that it's okay.
Yeah.
It is okay. There's no shame. There's no like, hey, you missed out. Your timing is just your timing.
Yeah.
And for you, if that's you listening, I just want you to know that it is okay. And once you at least understand that why, then we can circle back around to when maybe your why is at perhaps a different time.
And Christy and Charles are not going to be disappointed in you. So you can still listen and still call.
They do
okay?
say that.
I know, but they're not.
Yeah.
I can say, I know her and him. They're not. I promise.
Yeah, they do say, I think you're going to be disappointed. It's funny, right?
All right, team. Well, thank you so much for listening today, joining us on episode 147 of Transition Talk. As always, make sure to share the transition love with those who may not know of us yet, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.